and this is the rest of my team.
Hello, I'm Sean White, currently a risk management and insurance major. I will be graduating in August of 2022.
Hi, my name is Reginald Brown. I'm also a senior. I'm graduating May of 2022 this upcoming spring. My major is finance and risk management and insurance. And we also have Joy Strickland. She's in Germany right now studying abroad in an awesome program with accounting and international business, which she'll be graduating in May 2023. So we'll be discussing today, Mapleton's RFP, and with that, answering all the questions. So Ventura is an incorporated, conglomerate that successfully bought Mapletown in 2018, January. They are headquartered in Moline, and they have their new Albany headquarters in New York. And with that, they're property and casualty insured. Ventura had a really good cybersecurity plan, but to ensure that, Mapletown, a subsidiary under them, had it as well. They were trying to get a plan in response for May 30th, 2020. On May 15th, though, of 2020, Mapleton became aware of a cybersecurity breach at their service center in New York. The crime that happened was a laptop with employee information offsite while virtually working due to COVID was hacked, and the criminal group was demanding a $10 million ransom. The group has threatened to post employee and insured information to the dark web, and Ventura has now asked us to modify the original RFP by adding the requirement of a recommendation of how the matter of the ransom should be determined. Both proposals are now due May 30th, which this happened May 15th. So this shows you how quick it can happen. And with that, Ventura has also asked us to develop a recommendations proposal based on our expertise, insight, and best practices, assuming that there's no practices in place right now for Mapletown. So some of the primary impacts and recommendations that we saw that could happen with having a ransom and criminal activity is just, employee confidentiality compromise, the decline of company reputation, and the revenue and profits decreasing. With the employee confidentially compromised, the impact there is just the info being released to the public, and then that being compromised. So whether that be, social security, birth certificate, or just even as simple as your address. So our recommendations for that was to provide personal identity coverage to those employees of the companies, Ventura and Mapletown, and the insurers. And so that's huge because it's not just the employees here, it can also be the insureds, which can, trickle down with the revenue and profits declining. But Ventura releases, I'd hope Ventura releases a statement about what happened. The biggest and best companies say are transparent, which will also help them and, trickling down in other effects. And we also recommended just implementing security measures, which Sean and Angel will talk about later, and implementing best practices from working from home and remotely, just because COVID-19 exposed the new world of working from home, everything being done virtually.
Yes, so to build on security measures, we suggest using multi-factor authentication, which would include sending verification text messages to verify identity or using fingerprints or Face ID. We also recommend using encryption services, which will basically be sending work emails through an encryption service to ensure that extra security, and also making sure work is being done on a private VPN network. And some of the best practices while working from home would be logging off when not at your desk and following protocols when you receive a suspicious email. Here at Illinois State, if you believe you received a suspicious email, you could forward that email to abuse.ilsu, and also to secure VPN connection. At Illinois State, certain things you can't log into unless you are under ISU Wi-Fi, such as payroll and things of that nature. We also believe applying later security measures would help, and using security devices in place. So with the security breach, there is definitely a decline of reputation. Employees and consumers are likely to lose trust in their corporations, and publicized news of this breach will tarnish the reputation. So we recommend reputation risk monitoring, which means companies and teams alerting the company ahead of time if a breach has occurred before it gets out to the employees, and having communication teams ready, such as a PR team or an HR team, to be the first responders in a way to the breach.
And here we're looking at some revenue and profit declines from two of the other cyber breaches that we have. We have CNA. CNA was the most recent cyber breach that occurred on March 21st, 2021. CNA decided to go the route and pay the ransomware to the hackers that was totaling up to 40 million. I was following the stocks of CNA and their stock price didn't decline at all, surprisingly. If anything, their revenues and profits went up in quarter four, and they're getting more revenue and profits than they did in the years prior to 2020. But the difference is that when we look at the Target breach in 2013, they're totaling roughly 300 million losses that took place, and the fees are still tacking on as we speak, from legal fees, crisis communications, and some forensic costs. The financial impact recommendations. So when we're looking at some of the impacts from data breaches, they've been increasing through the years as we're pushing technology further as a world and an industry as a whole. Since 2019, it has raised a 10% rise from the average cost. That's just 2-3 year difference. And we're expecting to see a lot more increases in the years to come. We're looking at some of the graphs that we presented from upguard.com. This is the standard encryption cost. A high standard encryption, if you were to have a cyber breach, the difference would be roughly around $3.62 million compared to having a low encryption to no encryption, which would be around $4.87 million. So that's a $1.2 million loss just by having a different encryption cost. Some of the encryption costs, depending on which companies you go to, from third party and first parties, they're roughly around $300,000 to $500,000 per company. As we're looking at some of the financial benefits of prevention since 2019, like I discussed earlier, we're seeing a steady increase on how much the impact can be from a cyber breach, from 2019 being 5.16 million to 2021 being 6.71 million. And like I said prior, we are going to see an increase from years to come from 2023 and so on for the next couple of years. Should the ransom be paid? That was the big question we had for Mapleton Insurance. As we saw from CNA paid the ransom. They paid the 40 million, and they didn't have any big financial legal reasons, legal fees like Target succumbed by in 2013. So we think it would be best to pay the ransom fees so you don't have any legal fees and any other extraneous costs from employees and consumers that had their information breached.
Sorry about that. My mic cut out. In conclusion, we had our internal adjustments that we recommended and our external adjustments from, the improved hardware to the company via VPNs, just, not being on a basic network at home, because the main thing that came from was working from home. So with this, at the end of the day, that we think that you should purchase cybersecurity and policy, and a cybersecurity policy that would save you money on the in front, the time, the stress, and, the reputation, and your profits and revenues would stay in line if something were to come exposed. We just wanted to thank the team at Willis Towers Watson, from Courtney to Marlene to Kenneth to Bree, to everyone we spoke with there, to the Illinois State team, Debbie and Jim, from my teammates and classmates, Angel, Sean, and Joy, and everyone that's helped us come with this presentation and our answers. And then we have our last page, our reference. Thank you. Any questions?
Thanks. It will take a moment for the judges to all arrive. So we appreciate the presentation.
And we thank you guys for, taking the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Levez Middleton with CNA. So again, great presentation, and, good assessment and recap of the event, having lived through it myself. Thank you for the work that you've done. The question that I have is you made recommendations around, if I'm not mistaken, VPNs and various functionalities such as that. Would you also be making a recommendation to Mabletown of preferred carriers to explore, leveraging that type of technology, vendors that may not have been necessarily utilized or overutilized or underutilized, I guess I would say, from a VPN vendor standpoint?
Yeah, from a VPN vendor standpoint, I think it's huge. I think it'll be I think that you can't overutilize it. I think that it should be there because you have people working from Starbucks and McDonald's on a free network, getting their coffee or their hash browns, whatever it might be, which is, great that you can come get free Wi-Fi, but it's not secure. And especially working in the insurance field or even healthcare, with that, you're dealing with sensitive information. And I think that it needs to be on a VPN. So I think you can't overutilize it. I think one of the things that they'd have to shop around for, because this is one of the cases that you wouldn't want to look for the cheapest thing. You'd want to look for the highest quality, if that answered your question.
Thank you.
I wanted to just get maybe the team's view on what you think about when you think about the reputational risk. You talked about two very, significant events, and you indicated there were differences in how they played out. What do you think about for the customer here relative to their reputational risk?
Yeah, and Sean spoke on the reputational risk with other companies and, the cases with CNA and Target. But, I think here it's huge just because, if I'm insured by you guys and you can't even, be confidential and not be hacked, and what stops that from me being hacked or anything, my information get out. So I think I lose trust, and then at the end of the day, with the reputation going down, you're going to lose business, and the revenue and profits are going to decline because me and my family are probably going to leave the insurance company just because I don't feel as if my information is being trusted, or if I could be trust you guys with my information.
Thank you for that. Well, I want to ask you, you got some of your data and you cited it as being Willis. What exploration did you do around other sources of information? Obviously, you had some good data, but can you just give me a holistic view of how you sourced data?
Yeah, so how we source data within the Katie School, we have our own library here, but we did more outside research than that, just using the internet, just trying to find the latest up-to-date with UpGuard, with our data sources from UpGuard, more specifically that Sean and I worked on. Those were from 2021. So we just wanted to find the latest thing with COVID-19, and that had a relationship, direct correlation with that could apply to all of us today.
Thank you.
Very nice job to all of you, and very excited about participating in this. So I had a question for you. I noticed on your slide that you talked about only 2 internal adjustments, improved hardware and company VPN systems. I noticed that you left off kind of training and education for the employees. Is that something that you would add on? And if so, what types of training and would you do for the employees to make sure this doesn't happen again?
So for that question, I do know that for a lot of the companies now, a lot of them have been implementing just trainings for their employees, especially newer employees. I know year by year, just like how tech is just blowing up, like almost every year we have now, and cyber breaches are becoming like a very scary thing, and insurance premiums are skyrocketing. I'm assuming a lot of the majority of the companies, bigger companies, are making their employees go through some of those processes and having internal VPNs. Because just like Reggie said, just like going to a Starbucks or McDonald's, it's always nice to work freely in your own leisure, but just having that extra step of security also goes a long way. So I'd say having just those trainings for just newer employees, and every year for just the longevity employees just go through that training would probably make a pretty big impact on the exposures.
Thank you.
Right. Well, I apologize if I have missed this somewhere along the way, but could you go a little bit deeper in your thinking behind whether to pay the ransom or not?
Yeah, so the reason I was kind of on board for paying the ransom, it kind of came down to CNA. And I was looking at CNA and some of their profit losses and how much margins they were losing. It seems they weren't losing many or much at all compared to Target. I just feel like just having them, all the employees and having the legal fees and having all the lawsuits coming on your desk, not just for that year. I feel like it'll definitely go for years to come as Target. They're still totaling up to 300 million to today to 2021. So it's safe to just pay off the 40 million. I feel like 40 million would be a more minimum payment than having to deal with all the legal fees that can probably stretch for 3 or 5 years.
Okay, thank you.
On that same note, I apologize if I missed this, but what was your budget recommendation for your program or how you were going to assist Mapletown beyond paying the ransom?
Yeah, so our budget, we thought within our budget, we were going to determine that based off the policy. So within the policy that we recommended, just going in there for their industry and their size of the company, we didn't really do the breakdown yet because we weren't given as much specifics as we needed for that. But just whatever they were going to look for, we're going to try to find in the budget for the carrier.
As a follow-up to Mary's question, when you, oh gosh, I think I lost my question. I apologize.
No worries. As a follow-up to Karen's question around realized costs and expense, let me make sure that I'm aligning on what you're proposing. Your recommendation is that Mapletown align some form of cybersecurity insurance, right? Is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
And then, so the realized cost would be dependent upon that, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I think the cost will depend on if they, we recommend paying the ransom, then going from there, just the teaching, like Danielle said, the teaching, we'd have to go with teaching and coaching from here on out, just because COVID was a new thing and everyone got hit with it and working from home wasn't as, available. So we'd have to go with teaching and coaching because all of us aren't, cybersecurity experts and what we should do at home. So we'd have to go with teaching and coaching. There'd be some costs there and the policy, and making sure the VPNs are there and everything of that nature. But yeah, so those are some of the costs.
Thank you.
My question came back to me. So would there be any things that you guys would do in order to maybe not pay the full ransom? So things that you would look at to maybe see if you could negotiate that payment down?
Yeah, definitely. I think the only thing with negotiating the payment down would just be hard because, they have something that we don't. They have the leverage of having information and, in the eyes of the company and the insured people, I think the best solution would be try to handle the situation as fast as possible. And negotiating, I think, would be a little bit harder just because you're negotiating with criminals that don't really care what you have to say, and there's no back and forth. They're either going to say pay the full or not. So I think that'd probably be the hardest part of negotiating to pay less.
Well, thank you so much, team, and we really appreciate your hard work and dedication to this project. And we're all going to leave and go to another room, and I think you're supposed to leave too and go to the next session. So thank you very much. And we
Thank you,
appreciate
guys.
it.
Have a great day, guys.
Thank you. You too.